Welcome back to the 10 Count. We're here at Hollywood Smoke in the city of Santa Monica. I'm Steve Kim, joined by Michael Baca of UCN Live and the sports god, Dave Smith. Guys, November 19th at the T-Mobile Center in Las Vegas for all the marbles in the light heavyweight division. And Andre Ward picks up a cachet of belts, winning a controversial 12-round decision over Sergey Kovalev. The trio of Burt Clements, Glenn Trowbridge, and John McKay all had this fight scored 114-113 for the Son of God. Mike, looking at this fight, how did you have it?
There, ringside, I had it 114-113 Kovalev. Watching it at home on TV, I had it the same exact score. I thought it was a very close fight. A lot of close rounds where you could argue either guy won them. But I think the knockdown in the second round is what ultimately should have been the deciding factor.
Dave?
I had a 116-111 for Kovalev, and I watched it on TV. I wasn't there, but you came on my NBC Sports Radio show and told me Kovalev's boxing skills are underrated, and that was exactly the case that night. And isn't professional boxing supposed to be scored who's the effective aggressor and who's landing the harder, cleaner punches? That's Kovalev all the way. But Ward did win the second half of the fight. He did a lot better. So do you think in a rematch now that Ward maybe hasn't figured out because he did better in the second half of the fight?
Dave, I disagree with this whole figured out thing. Again, if you run a 100-yard dash and you lose by 20 steps, you still lose. Now, if you close the gap and you only lose by a step or two, you're still losing. I thought the second half of the fight was close. I don't think it was a whitewash. I think certainly Kovalev's dominance was not as pronounced. But it kind of reminds me of the De La Hoya Trinidad, the perception that, well, Oscar was winning after 8 rounds. I agree, but Dave, it wasn't 5-3. 8-0. It was more 5-3.
It's like Mildred Taylor Chavez, the first fight. The HBO guys had it a whitewash, and I thought Chavez was winning in the 12th round.
Yeah, and so if you look at that situation, I think the judges, I think what's really controversial about what Trowbridge and company did, to basically give every single round from 7 to 12 to Sergey Kovalev, when there's certain rounds, like the 10th, for instance.
10th, yeah. That's the one round where...
You're kind of looking at this saying, seems to me like they're doing some bookkeeping here, boys.
How'd you have it scored, Steve?
I had it 115-112. I didn't have it quite as wide as you did. If you look at the jab, and this is what I told you back the night of the show, I thought Sergey Kovalev left jab, his left hand in general, I think is one of the most underrated weapons. Everyone talks about his right-handed power. The way he's able to clear distance and spacing, and it's actually a power punch, the way he throws it after the right hand at times, and then he turns it into a hook. Very crafty with it. It's a very good defensive mechanism. I do think Andre Ward made some adjustments, but my point is, whether you lose a round big or you tighten up the gap, if you don't win the round, you don't win the round. And Mike, that's what bothers me. Just because you tighten up the gap or you do better than you did in subsequent rounds, it doesn't mean you should get that round.
No, that's very true, and it's going to be left open for discussion until that rematch happens, which should happen. I don't see any way Andre Ward can proceed without giving Sergey Kovalev that rematch, because that's just the right thing to do, isn't it?
Well, it's contracted, but
that as well.
Listen, if Andre Ward and his people really thought they figured out Sergey Kovalev, okay, that's certainly their opinion. That's what they're saying to the media and to the public at large. Dave, when you also say when you signed a rematch clause and you've agreed to the terms, and then you kept saying, well, things have to be different this time around in terms of negotiations, Dave, does that suggest to you that Andre Ward and his representatives really feel they figured out Sergey Kovalev? If they did, shouldn't they be running to the rematch?
I don't think so. I think Kovalev will win the rematch just like he won the first fight. But that's the narrative, and that people are saying maybe he figured him out because he won the second half of the fight. But, and also judging, I think judging changed April 6, 1987, the Hector Leonard fight.
You say this all the time.
Judging changed forever. That was the first time a guy ran and slapped, really, and won a decision over the effective aggressor, and the guy landed the harder, cleaner punches. And I hate these announcers who always say, well, he won the round because he was busy, because he was the aggressor.
Yeah.
You have to do something. You have to be landing. You have to be the effective aggressor, not the aggressor.
When you look at professional boxing, they always talk about the 4 criteria, and they go with defense, ring generalship, effective aggression. Really, it comes down to one thing. Who's doing the harder, more effective punching? Really, it is. I mean, to me, when you start saying ring generalship, it's such a nebulous term. I mean, you could literally say, well, he got out-punched, but the ring generalship and the defense. First of all, if you actually look at certain videos where people are breaking this down, that jab was in Ward's face the whole night. I'll be honest. I've always said Ward is a better tactician than technician. And I thought Robert Byrd, generally a very good referee. Guys, when are we going to start cutting out holding? This is not MMA. This is not Greco-Roman wrestling. Let's get the grappling and the excessive clinching out of our sport.
I totally agree. And one little caveat, I think the crowd had a lot to do with this. Mm-hmm. Being there, they were rooting for every menial Ward punch. They just wanted to root for something because it was a very pro-Ward crowd. And that was one thing that really stuck out to me being there in the arena. And lastly, for me, in regards to this being a robbery, it's a very close fight. It's a robbery in a sense that Kovalev, from here on out, let's say he doesn't get the rematch. Where does he go from here?
It's a great question, and that's something that should be asked to Kathy Duba. I just wonder about the contractual obligations. I mean, are there penalty clauses? Is there financial settlement that has to be paid over to main events and Kovalev if they renege on the contract, which is something, quite frankly, we have to be honest, Andre Ward has never really adhered too much to contractual binding contracts before. But David, 116-111, that's 8 rounds to 4 plus a knockdown. Is that a robbery in your book?
I've seen worse. I thought it was a bad decision. I wouldn't exactly say it's a robbery because some of those rounds, Mike's right, were close. Yeah. But I just thought coming forward, landing the harder, cleaner punches, and being the effective aggressor, there was no doubt in my mind. I could live with your score as well, Mike. But robbery, no. But clear-cut decision for Kovalev that he should have won, yes.
Does it hurt boxing, guys, when I think at least 2/3 of the public that saw the fight had Kovalev winning and it goes the other way? Does that hurt the perception of the business?
Maybe a little, yes, especially because the aesthetically pleasing fighter was at the losing end of this. Mm-hmm. And going forward, he's not the one with the belts around his waist, and that he's literally come from nowhere. Mm-hmm. This Sergey Kovalev kid. So that's why I kind of throw that robbery word out there. It's not just the fight; it's what happens after the fight. All Kovalev had was those belts. Yeah. He has no bargaining chips now. That's why, you can say this was a robbery, sure. I mean, the fight itself, it was close. Right when the decision happened, I was not surprised. I was like, wow, that was a close fight. I had it only one difference of 1 point. Yeah. Can't be mad at that.
All right, well, there you have it. That's it for this edition of the 10 Count. On behalf of Dave Smith and Michael Baca, this is Steve Kim saying, till the next round, goodbye, everybody.